All right, this evening we are talking about fasting for longevity, specifically fasting for females and how females need to go about this and need to really think about fasting within where they are hormonally. As we all know by now, because you hear me talk about it so much, that females, biologically change depending on where they're at. Are they premenopausal, perimenopausal, or postmenopausal? I really like to lump women into those three different brackets, and that's how I focus in on customizing their 5 Thrive, their fasting, their movement, their detoxing, and their resting. So tonight we're gonna really zoom in on fasting and how to customize fasting within your personal hormonal state and think about moving towards longevity for your body and for your overall health. So first, we need to define what fasting is. So fasting is simply abstaining from food for a period of time. And then we need to define what intermittent fasting is, because we use intermittent fasting as a tool, right? So intermittent fasting is going without food intermittently throughout your day. So when you're using the Liv Well Daily method, specifically the 5 Thrive, which is our clean protein, complex carbohydrate, healthy fat, dietary fiber, and vibrant grains, when you're getting that 5 in each meal, your body begins to thrive from the inside out. Meaning you are able to fast 4 to 6 hours between each meal, hopefully without thinking about food, because you're turning off your hunger hormone ghrelin, you're balancing your blood sugar, you're providing your body with satiety because you're allowing that belly to expand as you finish your meal. So a lot is occurring, but when we say intermittent fast, that's what I think of. I think of fasting between meals. I like my clients to go 4 to 6 hours between each meal. And I want them to think about, okay, is my hunger coming from my head or is it coming from my belly? Right? So if it's coming from your head, then that means, in my opinion, there's a blood sugar imbalance and there's a hormonal imbalance. Your hunger hormone, ghrelin, was not turned off, and leptin, which is your satiety, was not turned on. So we got to focus on that. And then when you take that a step further, when we think about intermittent fasting, we think, which is such a buzzword, it got a lot of just notice when ketogenic got its hype, when ketogenic diet got its hype. But intermittent fasting too, when you take that a step further, you plan like a fasting schedule to support a flexible metabolism. So your fasting schedule could be 12-12, 14-10, 16-8. That's probably what you've heard. Okay, so now we're gonna zoom into this further, because women need to be careful in how they go about doing this, because specifically pre and perimenopausal women, they can disrupt their hormonal cycle, and it can cause adverse effects like missing their period, being delayed on their period. It could cause your period to come earlier, could cause hormonal acne, things like that. So we need to be careful in how we go about doing this. So first and foremost, when we think about fasting for longevity, now that we have defined what fasting is, now that we have defined what intermittent fasting is within the Liv Well Daily method, how do we then begin to move towards longevity? Well, first we need to think about creating a flexible metabolism. That is something that we want at any age, right? A flexible metabolism. And we do that by customizing our fasting schedule, but also changing it up. And I'm gonna dive into that a little bit more. But first we need to think about creating a metabolic rate, so a metabolism that is flexible, which then leads to freedom to intuitively eat. So it leads to your ability to really listen to your body and hone in and honor your cravings and honor what your body is asking for. So when we have a flexible metabolism, what are the benefits of that? Well, there are quite a few. We will actively decrease inflammation. We will manage our weight and promote healthy weight loss if it is needed. We will balance our blood sugar and specifically our hunger hormones. We'll balance that insulin. We'll balance that hunger hormone ghrelin. will strengthen our gut-line barrier. Fasting is so good for strengthening your gut-line barrier. It will increase your cognitive function and your memory, so you're able to regurgitate information and hold on to it. It will boost your mood. You'll feel better. You'll feel more energized when your metabolism is flexible. It increases your immune response, right? So your immunity is increased. It supports metabolic pathways, so it supports a healthy metabolic pathway, aka a healthy metabolism. So our bodies function best when fasting is changed up. As a female, our bodies function optimally when our fasting schedule is changed up within our cycle and within our personal hormonal state. Let me say that. When it's changed up within our personal hormonal state, because postmenopausal women no longer have that, the cycle fluctuations, they no longer have the cycle anymore. So what do I mean by that? Well, I'd like to lump it into 3 brackets. You have your premenopausal women, and your premenopausal women need to focus in on aligning their intermittent fasting schedule within their monthly infradian rhythm, so within their monthly cycle. Perimenopausal women need to push, right? So we focus on pushing the body harder. So we push for a longer fasting window within our cycle phases. And number 3, postmenopausal women, we align our fasting within their circadian rhythm. So within the time of day. And when it's like winter months, you're eating less. And you're maybe eating sooner because it gets dark really early, whereas in summer months, the sun is out longer, you're moving your body theoretically more, you're a little bit more active, so your eating window changes there. So how do we then, so knowing those 3 different brackets and those 3 different areas and phases of the female hormonal life, how do we then create flexible metabolism for longevity? And so I have 4 steps here. Our first step is we need to understand where we are hormonally. Does everybody know where they are hormonally? I'm gonna let you put in the comments, because I want this to be engaging, where you are at hormonally. Are you premenopausal? Type in premenopausal. If you're premenopausal, type in perimenopausal. If you're perimenopausal, and type in postmenopausal if you're postmenopausal. And let's hear where everybody is at, because in order to do this properly, you personally need to know your hormones, you need to know your body, you need to know your anatomy, you need to know where you are. So I'm gonna give everybody just a couple seconds here. Great. We got perimenopause, we got pre-menopause, and just give it a little bit more pre-menopause. Great. So it's so great that you guys already know. I know I just had a consult with a client, and she was like, after speaking to you, like before I began my consult, I thought I was pre-menopause, but after speaking to you, oh my gosh, I'm perimenopause. I didn't even really know that was a phase. So understanding the difference there is important. Pre-menopause, pre-menopause, and perimenopause. Okay, great. Pre-menopausal. Okay, that's what I thought. I thought the bulk of us were pre-menopause. We got 1 perimenopause. And so yeah, so that's first. We need to understand where we are hormonally. And so when I lump that in, I think about ages here, right? So pre-menopause is, theoretically my client base is 18, but it starts with when you start your period, right? So it could be 14, 15, 16, wherever. But I say like 18 to 39, right? We're in that bracket. And then you move to perimenopause when you're in your 40s. So it's 40s until you reach menopause. So for most women, it's 40 to 50, but some women may not enter into menopause until they're 60. It just, everybody is different. And so perimenopause is once you hit your 40s until you hit menopause. Menopause is an entire year without having your period. And then once you get past 12 months without your period, you are then post-menopausal, and you no longer have a period, and your hormones have basically flatlined. You no longer have the fluctuations. So that should clear the air so everybody knows where they are hormonally. I think everybody that's engaging this evening knows where they are, so that is your first step. You've already you've already come that far. So thumbs up there. Second is now we customize. Now we want to think about customizing to your personal hormonal state. So this is what I do with my clients, and I'm going to break that down with you here this evening. So first, premenopausal women. We want to focus on aligning our intermittent fasting schedule within our, let's see, I'm perimenopause, I guess. I didn't know. See, so many women, they don't really realize, and Penny, we can dive into that more. We can schedule a one-on-one call. We can dive into that more. Pre-menopause. Okay, so we want to focus in on aligning our intermittent fasting schedule. So in order to have a flexible metabolic rate, you need to be flexible and you need to be changing up your intermittent fasting schedule. And here is why. Because the premenopausal body changes biologically every 7 to 10 days. Every 7 to 10 days, her biology changes because her hormonal fluctuations change. So I break this down. In the early half of your cycle, you're gonna do shorter fasting schedule. And in the later half of your cycle, you're going to do a longer fasting schedule. So what do I mean by that? In the early half of your cycle, so you have just finished menstruating, so we're right here. You have now entered into your follicular phase before you go into ovulation. Follicular, ovulation, early half of cycle. Estrogen is the dominant female sex hormone during this time. Because estrogen is the dominant female sex hormone during this time, your body temperature is lower, your resting cortisol is lower, therefore you are able to push your body harder physically. As a result, your body responds well to high intensity interval training, so HIIT workouts, cardio. If you're a member, which y'all are, you're members of Liv Well Daily, cardio sculpts with running. I'm now encouraging like running sprints in the midst of your walk to just change things up, to get a quick heart rate boost and then to lower that back down. So in the early half of your cycle, that is supported because your body temperature is lower. Your body can handle the stamina, right? It is ready to be pushed harder, okay? So that's why. So as a result, you're going to eat sooner than later because you're hungrier. You're hungrier because you're pushing your body harder, right? Light bulb moment. So you're gonna intermittent fast shorter. So I like to say my follicular phase, when you're in your follicular phase, I want you to go 12-12. So 12-hour fasting window to a 12-hour eating window. And then as soon as you move over to ovulatory, so it's right after you're done in your follicular phase, your progesterone is slightly on the rise, but not very much. Estrogen is still your dominant hormone. So your body temperature slightly starts to increase. So as a result, we're going to slightly increase our fast. So we're then gonna move, once we're in ovulatory phase, to 14-10, okay? Early half of our cycle, 12-12, 14-10. Then you're gonna enter into the later half of your cycle. So as soon as you're done ovulating, you then enter into luteal. And this later half of your cycle, luteal phase, lasts anywhere from 10 to 15 days. Each female is different. So be tracking your cycle, be seeing where you are. So in the later half of her cycle, this is what happens. Progesterone, estrogen has flatlined, progesterone has now increased, and so estrogen is now right underneath progesterone. I have a beautiful chart of that on my guide, and I can send it to y'all if you want it, but progesterone is elevated and estrogen is just right underneath. So what happens to your body when progesterone is the dominant hormone? So when progesterone is the dominant hormone, your body temperature is elevated, right? So if you take your temperature, you're gonna notice that it's up a couple degrees than it typically is. If you're typical like 96.8, you may be a 98.6 at that point. So your body temperature is elevated. Your resting cortisol, so your stress hormone, is elevated. Therefore, your body cannot push harder physically. You don't have the stamina. And here's what happens. If you push your body hard during that time, when your body is actually demanding more rest, more concentrated and focused movement, you are more likely to hold on to that weight than to let go. So it's good to change up your workouts. So during that time, I say gentle sculpts with heavy weights, longer reps, shorter time, heavier weights. Okay, and if you're someone who likes to lift weights, same thing, heavier weight, longer reps, shorter time. Because what happens if she pushes her body too hard during that time, she is at risk for opening fat storage and depleting muscle storage. And this goes against everything that we are actively trying to accomplish when women are trying to lose weight or maintain their weight or maintain their metabolic flexibility, okay? So as a result, we eat healthy fats as our fuel source, and we start to decrease complex carbohydrates in our 5 Thrive to maybe 1 cupped hand once a day and leave it at that. So as a result, when you use healthy fats as your fuel source, you are then able to fast longer. When you're not pushing your body as hard physically, like cardio, intense, you're able to fast longer. So at that point, I really recommend women move to 16-8. Challenge yourself. You've already worked up to that point. You went from 12-12 to 14-10. So your blood sugar is balanced. You're not going to go catty-wonky. Gracefully you move and you're ready for 16-8. And when you eat healthy fats and when you allow your body to rest more and when you do more concentrated movement, it will really complement that. And so you'll be able to fast, intermittent fast longer, and that's the beauty of that. So that is our premenopausal plan. But then I want to kick it up a notch, right? Especially if you've done this before. So maybe your first month you do that, and then your second month, I want to kick it up a notch. I want you to go 1 day out of the month, and you can plan that. You can plan it in your follicular phase, so as soon as you're done menstruating and you feel really good. You could plan it right before you start your luteal phase, so at the end of ovulation. I don't recommend planning it while you ovulate if you are in childbearing years. So if you're in your 20s and maybe mid-30s, early to mid-30s, I don't recommend this during your ovulatory phase. But I want you to plan 1 day where you are fasting for 20 hours. So meaning you're gonna get all of your caloric intake in a 4-hour time frame. So I think when I've done this for myself and I have seen the positive benefits of it, I really like to have my meal around 12 o'clock, and then I'll have like a sweet treat at 4 o'clock, and I'll end it at that time. And I fast all morning and I fast all evening. Again, this creates flexible metabolic rates. This creates a flexible metabolism, because when we initially talked about what fasting does for your body, all of those things, this is another tool that we have. We always want to think about changing it up and pulling this out and stretching it out this way and then pulling it back in. So my personal recommendation is for you to do 12-12 follicular, 14-10 ovulatory, and the day before you start your luteal detox, and we'll go in a minute of what that is, but the day before you start your luteal detox, I want you to go 20 hours with fasting. So you're getting all of your food in that 4-hour window, and then begin your luteal detox, or finish your luteal detox and finish it with that, so you can either start your luteal detox that way or end your luteal detox that way. But either way, your blood sugar and your hunger hormones are going to be supported, because you are already preparing for this as you are starting to lengthen out your intermittent fasting schedule. And then if you're advanced, I recommend doing a water fast if you want to, once a month. So the first Sunday of the month, or the last Sunday, or one Sunday out of the month, where it is just a true Sabbath for you, where you're at home with your family or your loved ones and you're getting lots of physical rest, a lot of time like playing outside, going on walks, reading. I want you to try a 24-hour water fast and try to do that once a month. And again, I always say that when you're doing that, we need to take the attention off of ourselves and we need to put it on God. So make that more of a time of spiritual growth and development, emptying yourself of you and really filling yourself up with Him, His Word, and all the things that He's given you, your family, your kids, your loved ones, your dogs, whatever that might be. And I love to turn my phone off. Or like on airplane mode where I'm not getting any notifications, and enjoy a water fast that way. And so that's something else you can do. So premenopausal women, that is our plan. Do we have any questions before I move on to perimenopause, which is similar but slightly different? All right. No questions. That's great. Again, if you have questions, you can always write them down, or like as I'm speaking and you have questions, write them down. We can always go over it at the very end. Okay, so perimenopause. Woohoo! You have now reached this phase in life when you hit 40. When you are 40, perimenopause, just a quick recap, your hormones are starting to decline. So progesterone and testosterone have dropped in half at this point. And estrogen is kind of all over the place. It can go from being really low, it can go from being really high. It's kind of all over the place depending on your body, your weight, all of the things. So perimenopause, it's usually a 10-year period. It's when you're in your 40s. It's kind of a crazy hard time because your hormones are no longer doing that beautiful symphony like they once were, and you're now having to adapt. So we still want to think about our cycle, because even when you're perimenopausal, you're still ovulating and you're still having your period. So we still need to keep that in mind, but now we're going to focus on pushing harder. You've got to push harder in everything at this point. Physically, you have to push harder. Nutritionally, you got to push harder, and fasting, you got to push harder. So let's dive into the fasting part. So early half of your cycle, what we talked about, the follicular and the ovulatory phases, I want you to skip the 12-12, because hopefully by this point we've been working together. But even if we haven't been working together, maybe try 12-12 for a couple weeks and then immediately go into that 14-10. But early half of your cycle, I want you to go into 14-10. So follicular phase, 14-10, and then as soon as you move over into ovulation, because you're no longer in that childbearing, you're no longer trying to conceive, you're no longer trying to have a child, we want to go a little bit harder, and I want you to move towards 16-8. Okay, and then in the later half of your cycle, so once you reach luteal phase, and you're preparing for after your luteal, so your luteal detox, we'll go over all that, but after your luteal detox, we want to move more towards a 16-8, or not 16-8, an 18-6, sorry, 18-6. So you did 16-8 in ovulation, now I want you to try 18-6. And then I want you to go 2 days where you plan your caloric intake to be in that 4-hour time frame. You can plan it at the beginning and end of the month. You can kind of plan it out. And again, my recommendation, because you are still ovulating, is to think about your cycle. Always have that in mind. When you're not trying to have children, when you're not trying to conceive, you don't really have to think a whole lot about ovulation like you do when you're in your 20s and 30s, because you really don't want to throw that off. We also don't want the adverse effects like hormonal acne in our 40s. That is not fun. So I suggest starting once you're done menstruating and you move into your follicular phase, go for a 4-hour caloric intake window. So go for a 20-hour fast, and then you're going to go into your follicular and you'll go back down to 14-10. So you went from 20, now you're going back to 14-10, then you're going to bump it up to 16-8, and then you're going to go into your luteal detox. And before you begin your luteal detox, go again for that 20-hour fast. So you're getting your caloric intake in that 4-hour span, or end your luteal detox with that 20-hour fast. So you have some wiggle room there in how you want to go about doing it. But we want to, at this point, try to get 2 days worth of fasting and more in-depth stretching of that fast of that 20-hour time frame. So you're getting your caloric intake in that 4-hour time frame and going from there. So if you're advanced, if you've been doing this before, I want you to try and do a water fast once a month. So you're already doing all of that plus a water fast. Yeah, I want you to try and do that once a month. And again, it's not about you. It's not about your pant size, and it's not about really how you feel. To me, it's more about your spiritual health with God. It's like, okay, where am I trying to be Lord in my life? God, will you reveal that to me? And I believe that he will during that water fast. And again, it will do something to you spiritually, and that's what I want. And it's an awakening. And as a result, it's doing a lot for you nutritionally and physically by allowing you to have that flexible metabolic rate. So perimenopause, we're gonna move you towards being a little bit more advanced, because you're at the stage of life where your hormones are starting to decline and estrogen's all over the place. It's like everything's doing this and estrogen's over here going like this. So we need to honor that, and we need to start preparing for menopause. And I want each female to go into menopause gracefully. And I believe she can do that when she has a flexible metabolic rate, because you can change your metabolism at any age. Any age. It has nothing to do with age. It has nothing really to do with your physical activity level. Like, yes, you need to be moving your body, but it's really about how you fast and how you feed yourself. So you can change that at any age, and this is a way that we keep it flexible, because I want it to be flexible for you in your 40s. So do we have any questions about perimenopause before I jump into postmenopause and kind of finish us up? I know this is a lot of information fast, but I will provide you guys with time at the end to kind of recap. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump into postmenopause. So postmenopause, you've gone an entire year without menstruating, and now you're in that postmenopausal time. And a lot of women think of it as a doom and gloom because their hormones have gone flatlined. But I have really seen it do the opposite of that. And I see it do the opposite of that when women really, really hone in on their fasting schedule, making sure that they get their longevity detox in for 5 days, making sure that they have an intermittent fasting schedule in mind, and that they are sticking to the 5 Thrive. So let's learn, but I'm excited. Good. So if you are a beginner and you're postmenopausal, I recommend my beginners start with 12-12, and we stay there for 2 weeks. You don't have to worry about a throwing off your cycle. You don't have to worry about throwing off, your ovulation schedule, all the things, because you're no longer doing that. So beginner, we're gonna kind of play around with this. Your first 2 weeks, we're gonna be at 12-12, then we're gonna bump it up to 14-10 for 2 weeks. Then we're gonna bump it up to 16-8 for 2 weeks. So the whole course of that month, you're not only focusing on the Liv Well Daily 5 Thrive, making sure you're activating your parasympathetic nervous system, but you're also gonna start playing with fasting, right? It's like it's like seasoning on food, right? It's fun to like sprinkle it in and drag it out longer, and then make it a lot shorter, because that's what allows your body to have that flexible metabolic pathway. So beginner, again, 12-12, intermediate, 14-10, and advanced, 16-8. And during that time, over the course of that entire month, I want her to be checking in with herself. Hey, how's my mood? How's my cognitive function? And how's my energy? Every 2 weeks, as she's changing her intermittent fasting schedule, I want her to be checking in. How's my mood? How's my energy? How's my cognitive function? Has it improved or has it not improved? Is it helping or is it not helping? Because it's very unique to her. She may never be a true 16-8 faster, and that's okay. That's not to say we're not going to sprinkle it in, but she may coast gracefully at 12-12 and sprinkle in some other ones. So again, it's very, very specific to that individual. So once she finds her sweet spot, I would love for her to stay in that 14-10 to 16-8 bracket majority of the time. Again, because it really does help with longevity and it's anti-aging. It does so many things for your body, and it actively fights diseases because it boosts your immune response. It changes your brain, your cognitive function, and it clears off damaged parts of your cells and creates new parts of your cells, aka your mitochondria. Fasting does that, ladies. It's called autophagy. Okay, so when she's postmenopausal, again, she's beginner, intermediate, advanced. We kind of choose and we find where we're comfortable. We may float between 14:10, 16:8, and then we begin to align it within the circadian rhythm, so the time of day. So in the in the winter months, she's not moving as much. It's dark early. Her social life may not be as extravagant as it is in the summer months, and that's just human nature. We want to recluse, we want to draw in close, we want to cuddle up in the winter months. So honor that. If you're not moving your body physically, especially postmenopausal ladies, if you're not moving your body physically hard, honor that by eating less and fasting longer. And so in the summer months, you may be moving your body a lot more because the sun is out longer and you want to go for multiple walks. You want to hang out with your kids or your grandkids or your friends, and you're just genuinely, you're more active in the summer months. So you honor that by maybe stretching out your fasts to be a little bit shorter during that time. So postmenopausal women, they start to think of that, whereas premenopausal women have to, and pre and perimenopausal women have to think about their cycle. So that's what I mean by that. So postmenopausal women, they are going to float between that 14:10, that 16:8, plus they're going to do their longevity detox. It's no longer a luteal detox because they no longer have a luteal phase, but it's the exact same detox, but she is going to pick her 5 days instead of planning it within her luteal phase. She plans it within her calendar month. Like, when does she want to fast? When is it good for her? Planning it around holidays, things like that. And then she's going to pick 3 days out of the month, 3 days where her caloric intake is going to be in that 4-hour time frame. So again, premenopausal women, we're going to do that once a month. Perimenopausal women, we're going to do that twice a month. Postmenopausal women, we're going to do that 3 times a month. So you could do, every other Monday, or you could do 2 Mondays back to back break, and then another Monday. I think it's kind of good to start a Monday that way, especially working women. It will help us, it'll help our cognitive function. It will really help us sit down and concentrate longer. So postmenopausal women, again, we want to think about pushing harder and for longevity. You no longer have to worry about the hormonal fluctuations. Your hormones have basically flatlined, and now it's the time to ramp it up. And so we are then going to add that caloric, those 3 days of the caloric intake being in that 4-hour period. It could be a Monday, and then she goes all this time and then does it again on a Sunday, and then goes an entire week without it, and then, ends the month that way. So she has it kind of staggered out where she's kind of creating a Z. So the beginning of the month, 1 whole week in, ends that first week that way, and then just, coasts, ends that way. So it could be something like that. She can kind of play around with it, and again, we customize that together with trial and error, what works, and then by the end of the time that we work together, she's comfortable. But both postmenopausal women, that's what we want to think about. So here's a thought that I had. So say say 14:10 is your sweet spot. Here's what we would do. So say 14:10 is your sweet spot as a postmenopausal female, and you're wanting to do that 20-hour fast, but you want to make sure that you're honoring your blood sugar. You're going to make sure that you're honoring your hunger hormones. We don't want that blood sugar to go all over the place. My recommendation for you is to go, so if 14:10 is your sweet spot, I want you to pick 5 days where you go 16:8, and then you do your 20-hour fast. And then you just coast back at 14:10, and then you maybe do like 2 days of 16:8, and then do your 20-hour fast. You're kind of playing around with it, but I would like you to get in, especially before your first 20-hour fast, try to get 5 days of 16:8, 20-hour fast, go back to 14:10, and then do like 2 days of 16:8, 20-hour fast, back to 14:10, and then maybe one day of 16-8, and then that 20-hour fast. I think that is a really good rhythm, and I've seen really great improvements in women who are postmenopausal who have started doing this. So again, I kind of think about creating the letter Z and then going back down and then going across. Okay, so this will be in our notes that I'm emailing out to you all, so you can pull that back and reflect on it when you start to get to that state in life. So let's see, we got some questions here. 24 works best for me all day in the winter. Summer, I like to add 16-8 since I am more. Yes, absolutely, Sage. So Sage is a client of mine and has been. She did the 3-month program. We did the 3-month program together, and now she's just been an active member, and she's on the premium membership, and we check in once a month during her luteal detox days. I text her during that time, give her suggestions, answer her questions, give her recipes, and just hold her accountable, because it's really hard to do that. And so she's perimenopausal and a rock star, and so great. And so she has found too that longer fasts work really well for her body, but as she is saying, in the winter months, it's so true. Once we start aging, we need to eat less. Even in our early 30s, we're going to notice that change within our bodies. So it's so good to start paying attention to it now and creating a flexible metabolic rate in your 20s when you're premenopausal, and start adding to it when you're in your mid 30s to 40s, and start adding to it once you get into that 50s and 60s. Does that work? Or so I have to fluctuate it more, so that you're thinking more about the circadian rhythm, and that's great. And I love that you are doing that. But this is something that is new, that I've been working on with a client, and it's something that is new in the research, and it's something that I want to maybe try with you. Trying to fluctuate it just a little bit more. You're already doing that, and you're already doing that more in the winter months. And so I think maybe coming back down to a 16-8 a little bit, and then maybe to a 14-10, if just depending on your cravings, depending on where you're at, and then spiking it back up, to that 20-hour fast. Again, I think that's great. I think it's something that, in order to keep your metabolic rate flexible, right? When we think about something that's flexible, it's weaving out and weaving in, weaving out and weaving in. And in order to do that, you need to be able to weave out in your fast and pull back in on your fast without disrupting your blood sugar. Instead, it optimizing your blood sugar and actually making it better. And so I think weaving it out and weaving in is good, but I think it's also important to listen to your body. You have already worked with me, and women, if you're, all of us that are listening, she's a testimony to that. She's very in tune with her body. She can feel when the day that she enters into her luteal phase, and even the day before, she's like, I know I'm entering into that luteal phase, because her cravings are different. Things start to change during that time. So you are in tune with your body. If you're not hungry, we don't eat, right? If we listen to the groans of our belly and not our brain, that we want that to control our hunger and not our thoughts. And so I think you're already there. I think, like you said, in the winter months, if you're not moving your body as much, honor that and float between maybe an 18-6 and that 20. And in the summer months, you can float a little bit more towards that 14-10, 16-8, and then get that 20-hour fast, kind of sprinkling it in when you need it. I hope that answers your question. And again, that's a really good question, and she's a great testimony for all of us to hear. So let's go ahead and finish our 4 steps. We're almost done. Step 2 was the most in-depth, because we had to talk about how to customize it within our personal hormonal state and how we can kick it up a notch. Number 3, we want to plan our luteal/longevity detox. What does that mean? Especially if you're new here. When we are in our luteal phase, like we talked about, pre and perimenopausal women, I have created a detox plan to complement where you are at. So in the later half of your cycle, your body cannot break down complex carbohydrates as your fuel efficiently. As a result, it stores it as fat, okay? And so that just goes back to having when you think about your metabolism. So basically your metabolism is energy that is exerted to, and I wrote this note down because I was like, oh yeah, it just makes so much sense. Your metabolism is basically energy that is exerted to burn what you have eaten as fuel. So what you put in your mouth, your metabolism is the energy that it takes for your body to burn that off as fuel. Well, in the later half of your cycle, your body does not respond to complex carbohydrates as fuel. Instead, it stores it as fat. And not to say that it doesn't burn carbs at all, but just not as efficiently. So as a result, we tend to eat more carbs in the later half of our cycle, therefore gaining more weight and storing up more fat. So to just debunk all of this, I created a detox. It's a 5-day luteal detox plan, and it's the same thing as the longevity detox plan when you become postmenopausal. But what this 5-day detox plan does is it tricks the body into thinking that you have fasted for 30 days, when in reality it's only been 5. Because this detox plan is a fasting mimicking, so you're eating foods that keep your body in a constant state of fasting. When you're in the later half of your cycle, your metabolism does not respond well to complex carbohydrates and it stores it as fat. It responds well to healthy fats, and it responds well to the slow breakdown, the slow burn of healthy fats, and as a result, you're able to fast longer. But I created a 5-day luteal detox plan that allows you to eat foods. So when we think about diets, when we think about the 5 Thrive, we think about the dietary fibers, so bold, rich colored vegetables. We think about vibrant greens, so lots of leafy greens. There's spinach, your kale, your collard, all of those things. And then we think about healthy fats like avocados, nuts, seeds, nut butter, even dark chocolate. And that is what we have during that time. And you can have black coffee or hot tea. And there's a tea that I really love from China. But anyways, it tricks when you have lots of cruciferous vegetables that have a really low calorie count and a really high water count, high fiber, and high vitamins and amino acids, and just really good for the body. As a result, when you have that with healthy fats, it tricks the body into thinking that you're still fasting. You're eating foods that trick the body into thinking it's still fasting because it doesn't require a lot of energy to burn that off as fuel, so it doesn't disrupt a fast. As a result, if you eat that way for 5 days, which is optimal, some women do 3, you can do 3, 4, or 5, wherever is best for you. But women enter into their periods gracefully. They actually find that they're, losing weight after they come out of their period instead of gaining weight. They feel energized. Their mood, everything is just enhanced because they're allowing their bodies to fast longer, because it tricks the body into thinking that you've fasted when in reality you're eating foods. And so it's called a fasting mimicking diet, and that's what you kind of think about. But it's the Liv Well Daily 5-day luteal detox. And if you're postmenopausal, it's called longevity, because at that point we are no longer have a luteal phase and we're focusing on longevity. And she picks her 5 days. Pre-menopausal women choose their 5 days. So they align their luteal detox within their luteal phase the first 5 days of that 10 to 15 day stretch. So that is the luteal detox. That's the longevity detox. It tricks the body into thinking that you have fasted for 30 days when in reality you've only done this for 5. It clears off damaged parts of your cells, creates new parts of your cells, specifically that mitochondria. That's where you're going to see changes in your brain. That's where you see changes in diseases. That's where you see changes in your weight, your metabolism, your mood, your energy, all the things. And it takes 3 months to see true cellular change. So I say do this for 3 months, and by that 3rd month mark, you're going to see improvements after that 1st month. I have women that have dropped 10 pounds in that 1st month after doing all of this. But in that 3 month mark, you're going to really see true cellular change that will be really positive. So that's a little bit about the luteal and the longevity detox. Let's see what she says. The detox is amazing. I love it. All caps, amazing, ladies. It can be a little hard, a little stressful, but in the very beginning, but it's so easy. You'll get the hang of it. And we're eating food. You're not drinking weird elixirs or doing any of that stuff. I am not about that. The detox is amazing. It gets rid of cravings, and I feel so much better during menstruation. See, yes, I'm telling you, women that have had PCOS because of this and doing this once a month, it reversed their PCOS. They go into their periods without any pain. They sit down on the toilet like, oh my gosh, my period surprised me. That's what we want. And it says, I feel so much better and I'm not hungry during the luteal detox. It's exactly right. Like, it seriously silences your cravings. You feel so good. You may notice like, oh my gosh, it's 1 o'clock. I haven't eaten all day. Well, that's why, like, you're able to fast. I mean, that's not everybody, but you're able to fast longer because you're allowing your body to utilize healthy fats as your fuel source. You're moving your body slower. So I recommend long weighted walks, gentle sculpts on Liv Well Daily Fit, yoga or stretching, and just lots of physical rest, sleeping and going to bed early, things like that. So step number 3 of our 4-step process is to plan your luteal or your longevity detox. I hope that cleared the air a little bit, but as a member, you all have access to that guide. And tonight you're gonna go home with not only my notes, but that guide attached to the email to make it very simple for you. So you can read about the luteal/longevity detox, and you can start planning it for this month or next month, depending on where you're at in your cycle. So we discussed what we eat, we discussed the benefits and how you personalize it for yourself. Again, each female is different. Her sweet spot may be 3 days, 4 days, or 5 days, anywhere in that time frame. And if you only, say it's like, oh my gosh, it's such a tight month and I've got this and this is planned, I can only get 2 days in. 2 days is better than nothing. I'm telling you, 1 day in, you're gonna feel like a new human. 2 days in, you're gonna feel extraordinary. 3 days in, you're gonna be like, holy cow. Okay, so 1 or 2 days is better than nothing, and we wanna make sure we do it pre-menopausal women, specifically pre-menopausal. Perimenopausal, it's a little different because you're not in childbearing stages anymore unless you're trying to conceive in your 40s. But women that are trying to conceive, women that are in their 20s and 30s, we wanna make sure we do it in the first 5 days of our luteal phase, because we don't want to disrupt our period. If you're advanced and you go and you start 3 days, a little later, if you don't do it in the first 5 days, but you have a good 5 days before you menstruate, that's perfect, because we don't want to throw off your cycle. We don't want to throw off menstruation. We don't want to have hormonal acne. We don't want to have a heavy or super light period. Those are things that we have to think about. So the first 5 days of your luteal detox, first timers, is key. We've got a question here. Yes, thanks, Liv. I look forward to receiving the notes and the detox info. I've never heard of this stuff before. Where has this been all my life? I know. All the science. I love it. I really geek out, as you guys can probably tell. Okay, last step, number 4, when it comes to fasting for longevity and making it a lifestyle, you cannot make it about yourself. Last piece of information, you guys. Fasting is never about you. It's always about something bigger than you. And as a believer, it's always about God and my posture towards Him. It's always about emptying myself, right? Because the day that I make fasting about me, I fail every single time. Every single time. I end up getting sugar cravings out the butt. I start dreaming about cookies, and I'm like, I don't dream about cookies, And so the enemy really comes in to try to, destroy that special gift that fasting is. In the Bible, it says not if you fast, but when you fast. God is the perfect MD. He knows that when you empty yourself, right, it not only binds you to Him spiritually, because it shows you where you're trying to be Lord over something in your life and you're not allowing Him to be the good Father that He is. But it also does all the amazing and wonderful, powerful things physically. God is our perfect MD. He created fasting, and He created fasting not only to bind us to Him, but to make us just better, healthier human beings with stamina, giving us a metabolic rate that's flexible and that's able to go through the different phases of female life, pre, peri, and post-menopause, with grace, with joy, and with gratitude. So again, fasting, don't make it about yourself. When you make it about yourself, it becomes really dang hard and you're not gonna wanna do it. Make it about something bigger than you. Make it about your children and you having energy to be the mom that you really wanna be. Make it about your relationship with God. Make it about that, and then you will never fail at it. Because it's supposed to be uncomfortable. It's supposed to be challenging. It's supposed to feel empty. It's supposed to, you're gonna feel empty, of course, because you're emptying your flesh to receive more of Him. So I want to just conclude this. Do not make it about you. Make it about Him, and you will go into it with grace and with ease, and with less temptation. The enemy will try to tempt you. The day that you try to fast, especially the day you try to do a 20-hour fast, he will tempt you. So make it about Him.